This is TWiT.
Now we're going to be joined with Ward Silver, N0AX, who was on the air. He had a station up, and he had some operators at his QTH for the Solar Eclipse QSO Party. So welcome aboard, Ward.
Hi.
Hi, glad to
Hi,
have
everybody.
you here now. For those of you, viewers out there, kind of tell them what this whole Solar Eclipse QSO Party is about and what it's intended to do.
Okay. Basically, the idea was that some researchers had taken data from the Reverse Beacon Network, which is a system of automated CW receivers that decodes all the stations and puts out spots that says, hey, I hear the station at such a frequency with such and such a signal-to-noise ratio. And it's been building quite a presence on the HF bands for the last few years. Nathaniel Frissell, W2NAF, as one of his doctoral papers, I guess, used the data to show the effect of a solar flare on the HF bands. He's a geophysics guy. And this got a lot of attention. What do you mean? What's this RBN thing? What are the hams doing? Long story short, it morphed into this event where all the hams got on the air on these modes that the receivers can decode, like CW, PSK, Whisper, and capture the signal strength of all of these stations as they're operating. And so as the eclipse went across the United States, the receivers all decoded these signals and logged the signal reports on all bands from 160 through 6 meters, whatever they could hear. And so this data is now captured. It's at Virginia Tech, and it's one of the largest on-the-air experiments ever made. So if you participated, be sure to send in your logs. The website is hamsci.org, and then click on the SEQP rules and information, and it'll tell you how to do all this stuff. Anyway, it's been a big success. I've got some stats, and they have, let's see, Whisper data.
Yeah, I saw the preliminary reports showed that they had over 670,000 spots detected just by the RBNs. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, that's just the RBN, and that doesn't count PSK Reporter and Whisper, Net, and all that stuff. So it's huge, plus gigabytes after gigabytes of data. I don't know how they're going to all get it to Virginia Tech, but the bands were digitized by software-defined radios, and so it's really an enormous undertaking. Well done.
So now I understand you guys were on the air. Did you use your call sign or
no?
N0AX?
This was the inaugural appearance of the E-Layer Contest Club. The little town of E-Layer, Missouri happens to be 1 mile from the station, so you have to drive through the E-Layer to get to my station. So W0 Echo Charlie Charlie was on the air. We worked Chris. We worked several other people. A lot of one-by-one calls from special event stations out there for the eclipse.
And you were mostly, what you said, you were on like 20 and 40. Now, did you notice any abnormalities or anything? Yes.
On 40 meters in particular, it was very unusual to have propagation to the west. As the propagation went through the eclipse to the west, we had nighttime conditions out to the west coast and Colorado, southwestern United States. And then as the eclipse moved over Steelville, which is where the station is, we were in the path of totality. As the eclipse moved over us and then to the east, the band opened up to the east. So we had nighttime conditions for hours on 40 meters, but in different directions as the shadow moved across the United States.
And I think you had, N5 OT also. I have a slide of that one too. He was operating there as well. How many operators did you have?
Mark and his family came up from Oklahoma. We also had K5TR. He stopped by, and KD0YJN. who's local. So we had 4 operators. We put the radio on 2 bands most of the day, on 20 and 40. We could have moved around on different bands, but we were really interested in generating data for the experiment. So we thought it would be better to stay on 2 bands the whole time so our signal could be observed under all the different conditions. I understand that on 160 meters, the conditions change dramatically by 6 or 7 S units as the shadow moved through.
Now, when you noticed propagation moving from the west to the east on 40 meters, about how long of a was that? Like an hour leading up to it as the eclipse started to go, as the moon started to go in front of the sun, or?
We could hear nighttime propagation basically early on. The eclipse started at 10:30, I think, in Portland, and that's 12:30 our time. But we could hear nighttime conditions as soon as we started operating around 9:30, and it got stronger and stronger. Like everybody else, I went outside to look at the eclipse, so we lost about a half an hour right around totality. But it changed for a long time. It held in there, and then as soon as the path was completely illuminated again, and the D layer built back up, we lost propagation to the west. So it took about a half an hour to an hour for 40 meters to get back to normal.
And now I noticed you had that weird thing going on 40 meters. Anything on 20? Any differences you notice on 20 meters?
Yeah, on 20, when it got dark, we would sort of see deep fades. Stations would be in there nice and strong, and then suddenly they just go away, and you would see fades of 4, 5, 6 S units. And I don't know how much of that was due to normal summertime absorption and how much was due to propagation being affected by the eclipse. And that's what the researchers will tell us. And there's already some interesting data that they're pulling out of the submitted logs and all that that really show a dramatic effect.
So was it almost like like when you hear stations come in and out really quick, like you're working off a meteor scatter or something? You might hear them come in really quick.
Quick. It takes the thing that really changes is it's called recombination, and what happens is the solar UV comes down into the ionosphere and knocks the electrons off the atoms, creating the electrically charged or electrically conductive layer. And when the UV goes away, it takes 5 to 10 minutes for that for the atoms and electrons to start finding each other again and becoming neutral. And when they're neutral, they're no longer conducting. So it takes about 5 or 10 minutes before you start seeing the effects.
And do you know approximately when they'll have a lot of these results published? So I'm really curious about 6 meters and 160. Those are the two I'm actually, and maybe some VHF.
I think the biggest effects were on 160 on the low bands. I haven't heard much about 6 meters having much of a change, but they're going to provide some elementary or introductory, I guess is the right word, statistics within the next few weeks. There'll be an article, a summary article in QST in December, just a preliminary. The professional research guys and gals will be doing papers on this for years. So watch QEX and QST for articles next year, and there'll be web online stuff, plus the HamSci website will have information.
And when you were making your QSOs, did you notice during the eclipse any weird noises or echoes? You know, like if, say, you're working someone long path, you know how you hear that echo? I was just curious if you heard anything like that at all while you were working these stations? No, nothing? No,
we didn't. What I noticed mostly was deep, rapid fading, particularly on short skip, high angle into the ionosphere on 20 and 40 meters. 20 meters in particular. The fading was deeper than usual, and it happened rapidly over a few seconds, and then the station might stay away for, I don't know, a minute or so. It was almost like working 160, where you have these really long waves of fading, and you just have to stay with the station and write them out. Same thing on 20.
Okay. Anything else I should have asked or didn't ask, or anything else interesting you noticed?
Well, I tell you, what I would really like for people to do now is make sure they get in their logs. Even little ones are useful. Anecdotes, maps, graphics, what have you. Go to the HamSci website and submit your log. You'll get a nice little downloadable, printable certificate. And the next project after this will be what we're calling a personal space weather station, and little simple instruments that hams can build and deploy themselves and then automatically upload data. So there will also be more of these on-the-air events. So stay tuned if you like participating, because there'll be lots more to do. This is really catching a fire.
Awesome. Well, thanks again for joining us so last minute and to talk about the Solar Eclipse Party. Really appreciate it, Warden, and I'm sure we'll have you back again, because you're just a wealth of knowledge. You're my encyclopedia.
Well,
and do you have are all those books there for personal use, and are they organized by the Dewey Decimal System back there or something?
Well, I'm CDO, which is OCD in alphabetical order, like it should be. So I have my books all set up. But yeah, there's antenna books, and there's transmission line books, and there's all this kind of stuff. And I have kittens that crash my computer and do all sorts of other things, and all crammed air into the engineering department, as Ellen calls it.
Well, you're my living encyclopedia, and I appreciate you coming on and helping us with that tonight. So thanks so much.
Thanks. I'm glad to help, and stay tuned for further details. This would be fun.